Hey, fans of Living Environment. It's one of those great days. Today is the test day. And of course, I'm here to read the test to you, especially if you have a 504 and IEP, take advantage of it. You got your test read. Um, but even if you don't, it's sometimes worth hearing the question being read. And you know that the Regents is going to be all about your ability to read. So if you take more time reading what the question's asking, you'll do better. Right? Ultimately, that's what you plan to do. All right, so let's get started. Number one. Question one refers to the following. And you see there's a table that has a list of 5 different species and then a sequence of amino acids in the same part of their hemoglobin molecules. Question one says, the information in the chart provides data that can help in the identification of possible evolutionary relationships from the study of comparative, A, anatomy, B, biochemistry, C, cytology, or D, embryology. Question number 2. It is recommended that people avoid excessive use of tanning beds. Exposure to the radiation emitted by tanning beds can cause skin cancer. This cancer is a direct result of A, change in a starch molecule, B, mutation in a protein, C, mutation in the genetic material, D, change in a fat molecule. Look at that, we're already on to number 3. In the diagram below, B, C, and D represents organisms that exist in the present time and show a striking similarity to each other in their bone structure. In the diagram, letter A most likely represents A, an acquired characteristic, B, homologous structures, C, geographic distribution, or D, a common ancestor. Question number 4. Many years ago, a scientist grew pea plants that produced wrinkled peas. The peas from these plants produced new plants that also produced wrinkled peas. The scientists concluded that something in the parent plants was being transmitted to the next generation. This discovery is now known as A, genetic engineering, B, natural selection, C, biological evolution, or D, heredity. Question 5 is a constructed response question. So you're going to write your answers in the form of a sentence, or at least try to ready your answer. Question 5 refers to the following: medical mystery. Recently, an elderly man went to the hospital. He felt tired and was coughing and dehydrated. At first, the doctor thought he had pneumonia, but an x-ray showed a spot on his lung. Because the man was a smoker, the doctor expected to find a tumor. Instead, the surgeon discovered a pea seed growing inside the man's lung. When the pea seedling was removed, the patient quickly regained his health. Number 5, state whether the pea seedling could have continued to grow and develop in the lung over a long period of time, with support for your answer. Remember, that's constructed response. Question 6, electrophoresis is a method of A, separating colored compounds on a strip of paper, B, separating DNA fragments, C, changing the genetic code of an organism, D, indicating the presence of a starch. Question 7. Relationships, went too fast. Relationships between plant species may most accurately be determined by comparing the A, base sequences of DNA, B, the structure of guard cells, C, the shape of their leaves, or D, the habitats in which they live. Question 8 refers to the following. Plants of the snow lotus species, Sessuaria laniceps, are used in Tibet and China to produce traditional medicines. These plants bloom just once at the end of a 7-year lifespan. Collectors remove the taller blooming plants, which they consider to have the best medicinal value. Some scientists are concerned that the continual selection and removal of all the tall plants from the natural ecosystem may result in a change in the average height of the snow lotus in future populations. The removal of the taller plants in this given situation is an example of A, direct harvesting, B, asexual reproduction, C, genetic engineering, or D, selective breeding? Question 9. The organ system that controls all of the body's activity is circulatory system, B, respiratory system, C, nervous system, D, lymphatic system. Question 10 refers to the following. Baleen whales. The baleen whales belong to the order Mysticeti. Instead of teeth, baleen whales possess plates on each side of the jaw that filter food from the water. These whales collect food while they swim. Baleen whales feed on krill and strained plankton, an aquatic organism that lives suspended in open water. Krill is a crustacean that measures 7.5 to 12.5 centimeters in length and grows most plentifully in the cold oceanic waters near the North and South Poles. Even though they feed on such small animals, many species of baleen whales grow to enormous sizes. The blue whale, Balaenoptera musculus, reaches a length of 35 meters with recorded masses of 100,000 kilograms. Heavy whaling of this valuable species has put it in danger of extinction. Among the other baleen whales are the gray whale, Escherichthys gallicus, which grows to 15 meters, the minke whale, Balaenoptera actorostrata, which grows up to 10 meters, the right whale, Balena mysticeus, which grows to 20 meters, and the humpback whale, Megaptera novangliae, which grows to 13 meters. Blue whales and gray whales are marine organisms that possess A, plates for straining food, B, spouts for collecting food, C, teeth for grinding food, or jaws, D, jaws for chewing food. Question 11. Down syndrome is a genetic disorder caused by the presence of an extra chromosome in the body cells of humans. This extra chromosome occurs in a gamete as a result of A, an error in the process of cloning, B, replication of a single chromosome during mitosis, C, an error in meiotic cell division, D, a gene mutation. Wow, you guys are doing great so far. We're about a third of the way through this exam. Keep it up. Let's march on. Question 12 refers to the following. Remember, this is a constructed response question. You're going to answer in the form of a sentence. Okay? A student observed the physical characteristics of 7 organisms and prepared the data table below. You can see there's a data table with 7 organisms, and it compares internal skeletons, legs, wings, fur, and moist body coverings. One of the student's classmates sorted the 7 organisms into 2 groups as shown below. Question 12 asked, which characteristic from the data table did the student use to group those organisms? Question 13. The diagram below represents possible evolutionary relationships between groups of organisms. Which one of the following statements is a valid conclusion that can be drawn from this diagram? A, earthworms and sea stars have a common ancestor. B, sponges were the last new species to appear on Earth. C, snails appeared on Earth before corals. Or D, insects are more complex than mammals. That was weird, eh? All right, I'm on question 15. I think the last question was 12, but I jumped ahead. It's okay. You're okay. Number 15. Which 3 processes do the arrows in this diagram below indicate? A, ingestion, digestion, and egestion. B, ingestion, diffusion, and excretion. C, diffusion, active transport, and cyclosis. Or D, cyclosis, meiosis, and mitosis. Question 16. Which one of the following evolutionary trees best represents the information in the chart below? You see there's a chart with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 species, and it shows the sequence of 4 amino acid molecules found in the same part of a hemoglobin molecule of each species. All right, and there are 4 cladograms to choose from. Which one is the best? Is it A, B, C, or D? Number 18. People with diabetes can be treated with insulin extracted from cows and pigs. The fact that the insulin of cows, pigs, and humans is similar suggests that A. Human cells are unable to recognize and destroy foreign chemicals. B. Cows, pigs, and humans are of the same genus. C. Chemicals can readily adapt to changing environmental conditions. Or D. An evolutionary relationship exists between mammals. All right, this is a constructed response question, and you're going to be filling in looks like 8 things, okay? So it says, fill in all the blanks of part 2 and 3 of the dichotomous key below so that it contains information that can be used to identify the 4 animals shown. So in your answer, you'll put like 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B. Characteristic organism. All right, and so the dichotomous key shows 4 organisms labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4. The dichotomous key says step 1, legs present, go to 2, legs not present, go to 3. You have to complete that so that all 4 organisms are sorted appropriately. Question 20 is another constructed response question. So you're going to write your question in the form of a sentence. Okay. Question 20 refers to the following. Biologists have been studying the genes present in newborn twins. I'll get myself in a good spot there. Twins don't share everything. Chemicals called epigenetic markers can be attached to those inherited genes, like flags or balloons hanging off the sides of the DNA ladder. These don't just change the look of the genes. Like pieces of tape stuck over a light switch, these markers can force a gene to remain turned on or off. The type of marker scientists studied in the twins generally sticks in the off position so that some proteins do not get made. And that means the protein's jobs won't get done. Every time a cell divides, a new epigenetic marker may form. Foods, pollutants, and stress may contribute to the development of new markers. So throughout our lives, we tend to accumulate more and more, but fewer there from the day we were born. Jeffrey Craig's team found that newborn twins have markers attached to different genes from the very start. It's true in identical twins, which come from the same fertilized egg. It's also true in fraternal twins, which come from 2 different fertilized eggs. However, fraternal twins had more such differences than identical twins did. And then the question is, explain why genetic material in an offspring produced by sexual reproduction contains genetic material that is not identical to the genetic material of either parent. Question 21. The diagram below shows a comparison of nitrogen-based sequence of the DNA of some organisms to those of a human. According to this diagram, humans may be closely related to A, gorilla, B, ancestral primate, C, orangutan, or D, chimpanzee. Question 22, another constructed response. Paper chromatography can be used to investigate evolutionary relationships. Leaves from a plant were ground and mixed with a solvent. The mixture of ground leaves and solvent was then filtered. Using a toothpick, 20 drops of the filtrate, material that passes through the filter, were placed at one spot on a strip of chromatography paper. This procedure was repeated using leaves from 3 other species of plants. A separate strip of chromatography paper was prepared for each plant species. Each of the 4 strips of chromatography paper was placed in a different beaker containing the same solvent for the same amount of time. One of the laboratory setups is shown below. 22. State how a comparison of the resulting chromatography strips in the experiment described can indicate evolutionary relationships. Question 23. Scientists hypothesize that cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, and radishes developed along a common evolutionary pathway. Which observation would best support this hypothesis? A. Chloroplasts of these plants produce a gas. B. These plants live in the same environment. C. Fossils of these plants are found in the same rock layer. Or D. These plants have similar proteins. Question 24. Which organ system transports materials to all parts of the body? A. Digestive system. B. Circulatory system. C. Respiratory system. Or D. Nervous system. Next question is question 26. Which one of the following statements is correct concerning hereditary information? A. Each chromosome carries the same information. B. Each gene carries the same information. C. A chromosome is composed of many genes. Or D. A gene is composed of many chromosomes. I hope you have some idea of what you're doing. We're about 2/3 of the way through the test. I probably should close the door because you can hear all the kids in the hallway. I'll be back. Woo! I'm back. Everybody feeling good? All right, good. Question 27 refers to the following, and this is one of those constructed response answers, okay? Where you can fill in the blanks. So it says, the diagram below represents 6 insect species. A dichotomous key to the 6 species is given. Right? Here's the dichotomous key. You know how to use one of those. You need to fill in the blanks for A and B. Complete the missing information for sections 5A and 5B in the given dichotomous key so that it is complete for all 6 species. 28. In some cases, humans have chosen to mate certain individual farm animals within a species. For example, by allowing only the largest cattle to reproduce over many generations, strains of very large cattle have been produced. This process is known as A. Selective breeding, B. Direct harvesting, C. Natural selection, or D. Dynamic equilibrium. Question 29. The Y chromosome carries the SRY gene that codes for the production of testosterone in humans. Occasionally, a mutation occurs, resulting in the SRY gene being lost from the Y chromosome and added to the X chromosome, as shown in the diagram below. Based on this diagram, which statement would be correct? A. The production of testosterone influences the development of male characteristics. B. Reproductive technology has had an important influence on human development. C. Normal female characteristics develop from a single X chromosome. D. Male characteristics only develop in the absence of X chromosomes. Question 30 refers to the following. The diagram below shows some evolutionary pathways. Each letter represents a different species. In a given diagram, if A represents simple multicellular heterotrophic organism, B would most likely represent A, an autotrophic mammal, B, a complex molecular virus, B, a complex multicellular virus, C, another type of simple multicellular heterotroph, D, a single-celled photosynthetic organism. Question 31. According to the diagram below, which 3 species lived on Earth during the same time period? Is it A, Robustus africanus and afarensis? B, Habilis erectus afarensis? C, Habilis robustus boisei? Or D, Africanus boisei erectus? Question 32 refers to the following. Cytochrome C is an enzyme located in the mitochondria of many types of cells. The number of differences in the amino acid sequences of cytochrome C from different species are compared to human cytochrome C in the data table below. Right? So you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 organisms. Number of differences is located. Of the organisms listed below, which one has DNA code for cytochrome C that is most similar to that of a human? Is it A, the tuna, B, the dog, C, the chicken, or D, the moth? Question 33. Butterflies exposed to radiation leaking from a damaged nuclear power plant in Japan have been observed to have malformed legs, antennae, and wings. For future butterfly generations to have these similar structural abnormalities, gene mutations must be present in the affected butterflies. A, wing cells, B, body cells, C, sex cells, D, antennae cells. Number 34. Sheep and pigs have more enzymes in common than sheep and frogs do. This finding may indicate that A, sheep are more closely related to pigs than to frogs. B, frogs are not related to pigs. C, frogs are more closely related to sheep than to pigs. D, none of these animals are related. Question 35. The diagram below indicates a few of the many varieties of domestic dogs thought to have originated from wolves that were domesticated thousands of years ago. The many varieties of domesticated dogs were most likely produced as a result of A, genetic engineering with specific enzymes, B, selective breeding over many generations, C, cloning dogs with desirable traits, or D, mutating the body cells of the dogs. Question 36. Another constructed response question. An investigation of DNA samples from 4 organisms, A, B, C, and D, are cut into fragments. The number of bases in the resulting DNA fragments for each sample is shown below. Which 2 DNA samples in the given table are the most similar? Support your answer using data from the given investigation. Question 37 refers to the following. The diagram below shows the results of a technique used to analyze DNA. Question 37. The DNA analysis technique shown in the diagram directly results in A, separating DNA fragments on the basis of size, B, producing genetically engineered DNA molecules, C, synthesizing large fragments of DNA, and D, removing the larger DNA fragments from the samples. I think you did it. And it should be Friday. And if it's not Friday, something weird happened, but that's okay if it's not Friday. I still think you did a great job. All right, remember, let me know. Send me a comment if you want to retake this test. Well done. That is all.